Hey everybody, welcome to Always Bored, Never Boring. I've spent the last few days in the hospital. Not for me personally, and everything is fine, but it's meant I'm very much behind the curve with my workload, and today I'm going to be talking about something I should have already covered by now. Cursed City Nightwars, the forthcoming expansion for Warhammer Quest Cursed City. We've been waiting for this expansion for a very long time, and I've already made one video talking about it, but we now have a release date, as the expansion will be going up for pre-order on Saturday the 1st of October, along with the reprint of the Cursed City core game. For those of you who don't know, usually Games Workshop work on a rolling week schedule, so products that go up for pre-order on Saturday go to retail the following Saturday, which means Nightwars and the reprint of the core set will be on the shelves of your Warhammer stores and hopefully local game stores by Saturday the 8th of October. If you watched my previous video or have seen any other reports about this expansion, you will know that it's not all good news. Or, to be accurate, it's not all good news for some people, and probably great news for other people. Games Workshop have decided not to include any miniatures with this expansion, and if you want to buy all the official miniatures to use with it, you are looking at a pretty hefty price tag. I'll recap those costs in a moment. First, I'm going to ramble a little bit. Look in the video description for timestamps if you'd like to skip ahead. So, why aren't we getting any miniatures? The simple reason is the expansion is using all existing miniatures that are available at retail right now. A lot of people believe those miniatures were created for this expansion, but then the expansion was canned for some reason, so Games Workshop released the miniatures separately anyway. We will never know the truth here, but I don't personally believe that. Games Workshop has massive lead times on their new products, often taking years to bring anything to market, and all those miniatures appeared in the Soulblight Battletome that came out not so long after Cursed City. Many of the miniatures for the Nightwars expansion are named characters. Radukar the Beast is clearly an army centerpiece. I just can't see Games Workshop ever planning to bundle so many characters for a new army into an expansion, because it would force the people who want the vampires to buy that expansion, which isn't a good way to launch a new army. Furthermore, characters always have a high markup. Games Workshop would either have to sacrifice profits by pricing the characters lower than normal for the expansion, or else make the expansion ridiculously expensive. When you look at the list of required miniatures for Nightwars, which we will do in a moment, if Games Workshop had ever intended to put them all in an expansion, it would probably have retailed for as much as the core game. I haven't forgotten that Blackstone Fortress Ascension had a recommended retail price of £65 and came with just 2 miniatures that weren't even named heroes for a brand new army, and that was the price years ago. Add in the fact Radukar is on a 60mm base, which is far too big for the Cursed City board, and has a scenic woodland base with 2 other vampires standing on it with him, which is completely out of place for the board game. And then add in that 2 other characters are on 60mm oval bases that also won't fit the spaces on the Cursed City boards, and I just don't buy that the original intention was for these to be expansion content. In fact, I believe this Nightwars expansion was not originally on the cards for Cursed City at all. I think that once Games Workshop realised how popular the game was and that they would be bringing it back into print, they felt they needed to have an expansion to launch alongside it, something to give the impression of planned long-term support for the game. Due to their massive lead times on new miniatures, they had to throw something together that would use existing miniatures, so why not make it one that would shift extra units of their most expensive Soulblight stuff? I think this is a content patch, a box of stuff that would normally appear in White Dwarf magazine, where we usually find rules for using miniatures we might already own. Whether this is a content patch to hold us over until a proper expansion next year, or whether it's a content patch to make us believe the new print run of Cursed City isn't the end, remains to be seen. And yes, of course I may be wrong, I often am. It doesn't really matter at the end of the day, the result is the same. For whatever reason, we have ended up with an expansion with no miniatures in it. And here is a list of the miniatures you are expected to have for this expansion. Radukar the Beast, Fellbats, a Vampire Lord, Lady Annika the Thirsting Blade, and Kritza the Rat Prince. The total recommended retail price for all of those is £126 or over 213 American dollars. And there are a few things to note. In my last video I suggested there may be even more miniatures you would need to buy, based on some funky wording in Games Workshop's press release, where they said if you've already got a Soulblight Gravelords collection, this expansion unlocks a heap of new narrative opportunities. However, the most recent image of the expansion that they have shared only shows enemy reference cards for the 4 vampires and the Fellbats, so I think it's safe to say that's your lot. And speaking of Fellbats, I have seen a few people online commenting that Fellbats are included in the core game. They are not. The core game has dire bats. Fellbats are much bigger. Finally, I have seen a few people say the expansion includes tokens that you can use instead of the miniatures if you don't have them. This does not appear to be the case. In all the images I have seen so far, I have not seen any tokens that look like you would place them on the board to represent miniatures. There are tokens that have images of the vampires on, but they are for the campaign board to track your success and mark the ones you have killed. Now, with all that out of the way, is there any more information we can glean from the images Games Workshop has shared? Not really. Not much, anyway. The most recent image seems to show most of the contents of the box. I say most because I cannot see any trait cards in that image, and we should be getting 8 of those because we have already been told that there are new traits in this expansion. But if we assume those cards are the only things that are not present in this image, it doesn't look like there's a whole lot there. There are 5 reference cards for the new enemies, and a new card for tracking campaign progress. Then we have what appears to be 4 empowerment cards. My guess would be 2 pairs of identical empowerments, as in the core game there were 2 of each empowerment, and it makes sense to continue that pattern. Next there are the encounter cards. It's hard to tell how many, maybe 16. 16 would make sense, as there were 16 encounter cards in the core game, and I would imagine this new encounter deck completely replaces the existing one for this new campaign. There is also a new discovery deck. Looks like quite a few, which is nice. More variety in items you can find will go a long way. It also begs the question, will there be a new set of crises printed in the mission book? I would certainly expect so, and it will be interesting to see what new events will occur as you continue to explore the Cursed City. Then we have some miscellaneous cards. 2 vampiric power cards labelled level 2 and level 3, suggesting the vampiric enemies may be able to grow in power as the game progresses, and then 3 other cards with an image of a vampire on the reverse. Those are anyone's guess. Of course we have a new punch board. Looks like just the one. This has some tokens which are going to be specific to the new quests and enemies. Looks like 2 new room tiles. They don't look particularly exciting and continue the trend from the core set of tiles that don't have any kind of blocking or difficult terrain to deal with. We also have 6 spawn gates labelled from 1 to 12, indicating random spawn points are going to be a thing in the new quests, which is something I already do as a house rule in the core game anyway. There is a big oval token reminiscent of the Endless Spell token from the core set. It looks like a screaming horde of tiny rats, so I would assume that's the work of Kritza, and we are going to get another mission where you are trying to outrun a murderous wave of nasty bitey things. As for the other tokens, not really sure. Some have eyes on the front and numbers or ravens on the back. This is possibly some kind of spying mechanism, probably something particular to a single quest, and then we have a few other things like blood splatters. Finally, of course, we get a new quest book. There is no indication what's in it yet. At a guess, I would say quests. But that's it. I noticed there appears to be no sealed envelope this time. Every Blackstone Fortress expansion came with a sealed envelope, a fun little secret to discover as a reward for completing the mission. The lack of anything like that here doesn't fill me with confidence for a continuation of this story, but again, like with the trait cards, it may just be something that is missing from the image. We shall have to see. There is just one more thing we have to talk about. I haven't mentioned the price yet. In the UK, we are looking at £30. That's €40 and 50 American dollars. Those are the recommended retail prices, the price you would pay if you ordered from Games Workshop direct, but you may be able to get 20 to 30% off of those if you shop online with a third-party retailer. Is it a good price? Hard to say. I am erring on no. I think it's probably less than a lot of people were expecting, but more than a lot of people were hoping for. If the new expansion is packed with content, if the new quests have lots of replayability, it could be worth it. If it turns out this expansion gives you just 3 missions that you are going to play once each, £30 may seem a little steep. I guess I'm also a little spoiled because I've just received my copy of the Frozen Horror for Hero Quest. That expansion comes with a quest book, 21 miniatures, actually 23 if you include the new doors, 35 cards, 3 punch boards, 8 dice, 6 of which are custom dice, and a thick pad of character sheets. That expansion has a recommended retail price of £37.99 in the UK, just £8 more than Games Workshop's offering for a deck of cards, a punch board and a book. I know it isn't fair to compare anything to Hasbro. Hasbro is a multi-billion-dollar toy company, but even so, it's quite a difference. But I think that's all I've got to say about this. Let me know your thoughts in the comments because that's it from me for now. Thank you so much for watching. If you've enjoyed the video, please consider pressing the like button. If you've really enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing if you don't already do so. And hopefully, I'll see you all again very soon. Bye bye everyone. Bye bye.